"Oh!" cried Chase, sharply. He looked at her. The long lashes were down. "You've said that as if I were Look here, Marjory Dean, I'm working for my mother. I've seen her faint when she came home at night. I've seen her hands bleed. If every day were Sunday and baseball bad, which it's not, I'd play. What do I care for Mr. Marsden? He's so dry he rattles like a beanstalk. I don't care what your mother thinks. I don't care what you think, either. Good bye." He strode off the porch. A low, tremulous "Chase" did not halt him. He was bitterly hurt, angry, and sick. He went to his room, fought out his bad hour alone in the dark, and then came forth feeling himself older and resigned. But he was more determined than ever to stand by the game. Sunday another great throng yelled itself hoarse at the grounds, and went home in shirt sleeves, sweaty, tired, and happy. Chase dressed, went to dinner, and then strolled round to the hotel. All the boys were there, lounging in familiar groups. He thought they all seemed rather quiet, and looked queerly at him. Before he learned what was in the air, a policeman whom he knew well stepped up reluctantly. "Chase, I've got a warrant for you." The blood round Chase's heart seemed to freeze. He stared, unable to speak. "My partner has gone to arrest Mac," continued the officer. "Here's the warrant." The printed words blurred in Chase's sight, but his own name in writing, and the term Sunday baseball, and the Reverend Marsden's name, told him the meaning of the arrest. "I'm sorry, Chase. I hate to run you in, but I've my duty," said the officer, and whispered lower, "We'll try to get word to Mayor Duff, so you can get bail and not be locked up." "Bail? Locked up?" echoed Chase, stupidly. Mac appeared with another officer. The little manager was pale but composed. "Shure, we're pinched, Chase," he said, and as the players crowded round, he continued, "Fade away now, or you'll put people wise. Somebody hunt up King and Beekman, send 'em to the station. Cas, you dig for Mayor Duff's house, and ask him to come take bail for us. Lord, I hope he's home. If not, the law puts us in a cell tonight. Shure, somebody has done us dirt. Them warrants might have been made out for tomorrow." "Mac, you and Chase walk round to the station alone," said one of the officers. "We'll go another way." "Thanks. Shure you're all right," replied Mac. "Come on, Chase. Don't look so peaked." "Isn't the whole team arrested?" queried Chase. "Shure, and the whole team'll be on trial, but the warrants read for manager and one player. It'd be more regular to have pinched Enoch, as he is captain. Don't know why they picked out you." "Is playing on Sunday against the law?" "Naw, not any more'n drivin' a team, but these moss back people twist things and call us a nuisance, and immoral, and Lord knows what. Here we are at the station. It's pretty tough on you, kid, but don't quit. This won't hurt you any." The two officers met them, unlocked the station house doors, and ushered them into the mayor's office. Presently Beekman strode in, big and important, and said it was not necessary to call in King, for he would go bail for both. "If Duff's in town he'll come," continued Beekman. Presently the sounds of a fast trotting horse and flying wheels drew an officer to the window. "The mayor's here," he said. Mac settled back with a deep breath. "Good!" he exclaimed. A tall man with a gray beard came in hurriedly, followed by Castorious. He nodded to all, threw his gloves on the desk, and took the warrants held out to him. In a few moments he had made the necessary recording of the arrests and of accepted bail. Then he shook hands with Mac and Chase. "Glad I happened to run into Castorious. Was driving out into the country. You'll get your hearing to morrow morning, and if you wish, I'll set the trial for Wednesday or Thursday morning." "The sooner the better," replied Mac. Then the mayor bowed pleasantly and left. Chase followed the others out. He could scarcely realize that he had been arrested, and leaving his friends in earnest conversation, he went to his room and to bed. He did not have a very restful night. The morning papers were full of the particulars of the arrest and the consideration of Sunday ball, and the subject was the absorbing topic of conversation everywhere. All the directors of the team were present at the hearing, and afterwards repaired to Judge Megg's office to discuss the matter of defense. Meggs was a shrewd old lawyer, and incidentally an admirer of the game of baseball. While in office he had been known to adjourn court because he wanted to see Findlay wallop their rivals. Therefore it was felt that with the case in his hands the team would escape imprisonment and fine even if Sunday ball were discontinued. Beekman and King had visited practically all the men of business in Findlay, and stating their case, that the Sunday game was conducted in an orderly manner, that no drinks were sold at or near the grounds, that it was played at the earnest request of thousands of working men and boys, had gotten a long list of signatures to their petition favoring the game. During the discussion as to the defense one of the directors had mentioned the fact that certain members of the laboring class were better off in summer for the playing of the game. "Can you prove that?" asked Judge Meggs. "I know it's true," spoke up Chase. "How do you know?" returned the lawyer. Somewhat incoherently, but with the eager earnestness of conviction, Chase told what he knew. Then the judge questioned him in regard to his motive, drew him out to tell what baseball meant to him and to others like him, with the result that he presently said to the directors: "Gentlemen, we have our defense, and you can take my word for it, we shall win." He asked Chase to call at his office an hour before the time fixed upon for the trial next day. Findlay lost the ball game that afternoon. They played listlessly and plainly showed the effects of the cloud hanging over them. On Wednesday Chase went to Judge Megg's office at the appointed time. "Now, Chase, if you were a star of the diamond you ought to shine just as brightly in the courtroom. This morning when I call on you I want you to get up and tell the court what you told me about yourself and baseball. Be simple, earnest, and straightforward. You have here the opportunity to vindicate yourself and your fellow players, so make the best of it." Chase went to the courtroom with the judge. It was crowded with people. The Findlay team and the team visiting town at the time occupied front seats. All the directors and many business men were present. There was a plentiful sprinkling of ladies in the background. Mayor Duff opened the proceedings as soon as the judge arrived with Chase. The prosecuting minister did not appear. His representative, a young lawyer, rose and expatiated on the evils of the Findlay team in general and of Sunday ball in particular. These young men set bad examples, engendered idleness and love of play. They were opposed to work. They enticed boys from school to see a useless and sometimes dangerous sport. They fostered the spirit of rivalry and gambling. Baseball on Sunday was an abomination, and it was a desecration of the Sabbath. It added to the undermining of the church. It opposed the teachings of the Bible. It kept the boys and girls from Sunday school. Sunday was a day of rest, of prayer, of quiet communion, not a day for playing, howling, yelling, mobbing, carousing. The permitting of the game was a disgrace to the decent name of Findlay, a shame to her respectable citizens, and a sin to her churches. The prosecution examined witnesses, who swore to endless streams of passing men on the streets, of yelling that made the afternoon a hideous nightmare, of brawls on corners and mob violence in the ball grounds, of hoodlums accosting women, and there the prosecution rested. Judge Meggs read the petition and the names of the men who signed it, and he said there could be little doubt of the great benefit Findlay had derived in a business way from the advertising given to it by the baseball team. "Your Honor," he concluded impressively, "I will now have one of the defendants tell his experience of baseball." At a word from Judge Meggs, Chase stepped forward. His face was white, his eyes dark from excitement, but he appeared entirely self possessed. "Your Honor, I am 18 years old and have played baseball as long as I can remember. I learned in the streets and on the lots of Akron. When I was 12 years old I left school to support my mother and a crippled brother. I sold papers, did odd jobs, anything that offered. I had a crooked eye then, and it was hard for me to get a place. People didn't like my looks. At 14 I went to work in a molding department of a